Hello, everyone. Tonight we will relax with the story of what Roman cuisine was like. You are standing in the cold of the night, a thin mist covering the ruins. The air still smells of ash and something very salty. You have probably heard that the ancient Romans were great because of conquest, because of gladiators, because of their suspiciously straight roads. But few people mention one of the silent tools that helped that empire grow: barley porridge. A thick pot that looks like cement mortar, but saved tens of thousands of lives. Could you survive a day in a Roman camp? No coffee, no Instagram, just wooden sandals, a suit of armor that weighed as much as a 5-year-old, and breakfast of barley porridge mixed with water, a little salt, if you were lucky, usually reheated 3 days earlier. Oh, and don't forget the pungent smell of sun cream made from crocodile dung. Yes, that stuff. The Romans believed protected skin from a harsh sun. Can you feel your pores throbbing? So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually like what I do here. And don't be afraid to comment your location and local time. We're time traveling together. Now turn off the lights. Let's relax together with tonight's journey. You trudge down the cobbled path to the barracks, the first place you would go if you were born a male Roman citizen of legal age. They called it the castra. And there you learned not only how to stab people with a spear, but also how to cook and endure harsh food. Main course: pulse barley porridge, a grain that is hard to chew, hard to digest, and hard to love, but a savior in long campaigns. You look at the pot of porridge boiling in the corner of the camp kitchen, steaming like a soup of hatred, and ask yourself, how can this be considered a culinary invention? Pulse was, in fact, more than just porridge. As the empire expanded, Roman cooks began adding herbs from Hispania, goat cheese from Greece, and even smoked meats from North Africa. Porridge became a mosaic of flavors across the empire. During some religious festivals, they added honey and figs to make a sweet vegetarian version, what the Roman nobility of Augustus called the food of the gods. Historians still debate whether pulse was truly a national dish or just a convenient solution for soldiers. Some ancient texts describe it as comprehensive nutrition, while other frescoes show that nobles never touched it. Perhaps it was like instant noodles today: convenient, quick, cheap. But no one would admit to eating it every night. You pick up the wooden spoon, or rather, a roughly sharpened piece of wood, and taste it. Your tongue hits something thick, bland, and slightly smoky. You detect a sliver of pepper, a luxury of the time, and feel like you've won the lottery. An old soldier beside you nods. Pepper? It'll be easier to sleep tonight. Sleep. In a Roman camp, you lie on the floor next to 4 other men. The smell of sweat and leather armor mixed with the smell of porridge. But strangely, you feel safe. There is something stable in this rough simplicity. A structure, an order, a pot of porridge, always waiting for you after the battle. Weird fact: some texts record that Roman soldiers used to add volcanic ash to their porridge to aid digestion and keep warm. No one knows if it really worked, but if you've ever had porridge made of ash in Sicily, now you know why it exists. You look around the barracks, where raucous laughter rings out, where people share the last bit of porridge like it's gold. There are no phones, no social media, just porridge, a wooden spoon, and the feeling of surviving another day. You huddle under the wool blanket, your eyes growing heavy. Your belly is warmed by the ancient porridge, and in your dream, you see yourself standing in the arena, raising a wooden spoon, shouting, "Food for the empire." You wake up to the smell of baking bread, warm, sweet, and a little bit like ash. You rub your eyes, shift under the scratchy wool blanket, and step out of the barracks. The sun is just rising, and you're drawn by the murmur of people heading toward the neighborhood, where there's the one thing no Roman can live without: the bakery. Don't think bread is a modern invention. In ancient Rome, people ate bread all the time, everywhere, and by all classes. But if you think it's a fragrant baguette with a crispy crust, sorry. Life is not like a French movie. You walk into a bakery in Pompeii. Yes, that ill-fated city buried under volcanic ash. The smell of baking bread, slowly fermenting, mixes with wood smoke and stone dust. Roman bakers were up before you dreamed of flying pizzas. They mixed flour with water and something you wouldn't expect: fine volcanic ash. The official historical event: archaeologists excavating dozens of bakeries in Pompeii have discovered carbonized bread that is still intact after nearly 2,000 years. The round loaves, with deep cuts into 8 sections, are called square bread. You see them, black as coal, lying still in the petrified oven, as if time had paused to remind you that Rome once baked bread with the seriousness of a religion. And now you're trying that same recipe again. Your hands touch dough that's been fermented with sourdough starter. They don't have packaged dry yeast, my friend. They use leaven, a natural leavening agent made from water and flour to feed microorganisms. And the ash they're mixing isn't just cool. Volcanic ash from the Campania region is rich in potassium and minerals, which helps the dough rise and gives it a distinctive, slightly smoky flavor. You might laugh, but there's actually a theory that baking bread with volcanic rock is the reason the Romans lived longer. Historians still debate whether the ash in bread actually aided digestion or was just a natural seasoning. They reluctantly ingest it along with the ash every day. Strange thing, some Roman bakeries used to engrave the owner's name on their bread. There's even a case of a woman suing a baker for giving her an insufficient portion of bread. It turns out that culinary dramas predate reality TV. You take a bite of fresh bread. It's softer than you expected, with a slight sourness from the natural yeast, a faint smoky aroma on your tongue. You take another bite and realize it's delicious. No butter, no jam, no Nutella, just the simplicity of flour, yeast, and fire. An old man standing next to you nodded approvingly. He was Baker, and as proud as if you had just attended a graduation ceremony at an ancient baking school. Bread, he said, was central to Roman society. The poor ate dry bread with garlic. Soldiers ate bread with diluted wine. The rich ate pure white bread, the kind sifted to remove the bran, so fine it was like talcum powder. Remember that peppercorn in the soldier's porridge yesterday. Now you know something else. Pepper was a luxury, but white flour was even rarer. It was like edible diamonds. Roman politicians promised to give away free white bread to win the hearts of the people. Strange how they bought votes with starch. The bakery was as lively as a fair. Children ran around, clutching hot loaves of bread like treasures. Old people sat there, chewing on rock-hard bread and still smiling. You stood in the middle of the crowd, feeling part of something very old, very real. You tear off the last piece of bread, put it in your cloth bag, and turn to leave the shop. Ash falls silently from the roof, a vague foreshadowing of Pompeii's fate. But you don't worry. Not tonight. Tonight you're full body and soul, from a loaf of bread baked with volcanic rock and thyme. You walk along the banks of the Tiber, the early morning breeze blowing gently across your face, carrying the scent of salt and raw fish. The Roman morning air is cool, but you've lived long enough to know that the brutal heat sets in by midday, bringing sweat, dust, and a terrible appetite. And today, you have an important mission: to track down one of the greatest inventions of Roman cuisine, the legendary sauce that was once called the Holy Grail of the Mediterranean. You've heard it, or rather, smelled it. There's no mistaking it. That pungent, fishy, powerful scent is the unmistakable hallmark of garum, the Roman fish sauce made from fermented fish, salt, sunlight, and a patience that would surpass Jupiter's tolerance. You enter a garum factory on the outskirts, shallow stone tanks filled with a murky liquid fermenting in the sun. Inside are anchovies, sardines, and mackerel, mixed with salt in a ratio not for the faint of heart. The whole thing is left to dry in the sun for anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months, until the mixture breaks down and releases a clear liquid on the surface. The finest garum. Just smelling it is indescribable. It clings to hair, to clothes, to memories. But don't frown just yet. In Rome, garum was the spice of choice. It was used to flavor everything from roast meats to stir-fried vegetables to desserts. Some versions were even mixed with honey to create a sweet, salty, confusing sauce. The official historical fact? Garum was one of the most important Roman trade items. There were famous brands, labeled bottles, and ranges from the cheap to the fancy. The city of Pompeii had an entire district devoted to producing garum, and when Mount Vesuvius erupted, hundreds of jars of garum were buried, still smelling of it 2,000 years later. A curious fact, the Romans believed garum had medicinal properties. It was used as a tonic, a digestive, even a laxative. Some even applied it to their skin as a lotion. It's not clear whether they actually felt healthier, but it certainly smelled good. You watch the worker turn each layer of fish, eyes unblinking. He mixes the mixture with his hands, as carefully as if he were performing magic. The fishy smell makes you want to back away, but he just smiles. The more smelly, the more valuable. Good garum is amber in color, clear as wine, and shimmering like oil. Special types, close friends, distilled from the first part of the water. So rare that it was reserved for the elite. Some people were willing to trade a whole barrel of wine for a standard jug of garum. Historians still debate whether garum was an original Roman invention or whether they learned it from the Greeks. Some evidence suggests that the Greeks had a similar fish sauce called sauce, but it was the Romans who commercialized it and brought it to the pinnacle of art. Just like someone invented coffee, but Starbucks created an empire. You're invited to taste it. Just a drop on a piece of stale bread. You put it in your mouth. The salty, sharp taste then suddenly softens into an indescribable aftertaste. Deep, rich, slightly sour, full of umami. You think, what did I just eat? But then it's okay. Delicious, even. The garum maker looked at you and nodded. The taste of the sea. The taste of time. You leave the factory with a small jar of garum in your hand. A gift from a stranger. A spice that was once a symbol of power. You make your way through the morning market, where housewives call out the names of fish, vegetables, wine, and yes, garum. You see an old woman pouring garum over boiled vegetables. A boy mixing garum with condensed milk. A soldier dipping a piece of dried meat into garum and chewing it. You realize this is more than just seasoning. This is culture. The invisible thread that connected every level of Roman society, from slave to emperor. The thing that made food more Roman than any stone statue. The sun is high in the sky. Rome is starting to get louder, but you've had a memorable morning. The smell of fermented fish still lingers, a gift and a challenge. And you know in your heart, if there's one thing that sums up the Roman spirit in a single drop, it's garum. You thought pasta was an Italian Renaissance invention, right? Sorry, but the truth may blow your mind. Noodles, or at least their ancestors, have been around since ancient Rome. And today, you're on your way to a noble kitchen to try your hand at making an ancient version of pasta, something the Romans called dan from. Don't imagine yourself twirling a plate of spaghetti with tomato sauce around your fork. Forget tomatoes. The Romans didn't know about them, as they didn't arrive in Europe until after the New World was discovered. So what did they eat their noodles with? That's what you're about to find out. You step into the cool stone kitchen of a domus, a wealthy Roman villa. There's no gas stove, no rolling pin, just your hands, hard wheat flour, semolina, eggs, water, and a wooden rolling pin. A chef with a top knot guides you through mixing and kneading dough until sweat runs down the back of your neck. This is art, he said, as seriously as if you were carving a statue of Caesar. You spread the dough thinly, cut it into long strips, and then boil it in a pot of boiling water with olive oil and a little sea salt. Official historical event. Liganize a dish often mentioned in ancient Roman texts, especially by Apicius, a kind of holy cook of the time. It consists of thinly rolled, boiled dough layers, and alternating them with a mixture of ground meat, lentils, vegetables, and sauce, almost lasagna without the cheese. Some historians believe that Frome is the direct ancestor of modern lasagna. Curious fact, some Roman cooks used perfumes to scent their dough. There are records of mixing rose oil or myrrh into the dough, which pleased the nose and the stomach at the same time. Imagine eating a plate of pasta that smelled like Chanel perfume. You add the filling layer in from a mixture of minced pork, still with a crunchy bone, coriander, pepper, and garum. Yes, the divine garum reappears. You spoon in the sauce, then layer the dough. Cook it briefly in a clay oven, the kind that burns with dried olive wood. The smoke is surprisingly fragrant. Historians still debate whether and from is it a real noodle or just a pretentious pastry. Some claim it is the ancestor of pasta, while others say it resembles moussaka of Greece. But the truth is, the Romans were eating pasta before the Italians discovered tomatoes. You pull the disc end from out of the oven. The top layer is lightly golden and fragrant. You cut a piece. Feel the elasticity of the hand-rolled flour. The rich filling melts on the tip of your tongue. The smell of garum is only faint, enough to arouse the taste buds, not making you choke like the first time. A servant brings a glass of red wine mixed with water. It is considered rude to drink wine straight, and you enjoy it with a bite of and from piping hot. Every bite is an echo from a bygone era, where food was not just about survival, but about status. A little girl sitting near you smiled. "This is my father's favorite," she whispered. He said nothing made him feel more Roman than a plate of and from full. You know the feeling. When dough, filling, and sauce come together, you're not just eating. You're participating in a millennial tradition. Outside, sunlight poured in through the arched windows. Birds sang. Smells and from blending into the scent of the flowers in the back garden. You close your eyes. Hear the soft clink of spoons on plates, the murmur of people talking, and suddenly think, pasta has come a long way. But perhaps it always started here, in a Roman kitchen, and a hungry man like you. You swallow the last bite, then lean back in your chair, full, but also light, as if you've just traveled through a layer of human memory, where noodles are not just food, but a bridge of history. You walk through the bustling marketplace in central Rome, where the cries of vendors, the clanging of donkeys, and the screeching of parrots mimicking their masters' voices blend into a symphony of chaos. The smells of baked goods, ripe fruit, and sweat fill the air. And amid the chaos, your nose catches a scent as sweet as a summer dream, baking honey. You follow the scent and find a small shop, just a simple wooden table placed against a stone wall. But on it is a treasure trove. Small, fragrant, golden yellow cakes, next to a bowl of pure honey shimmering like liquid sunlight. Welcome to the world of ancient Roman pastry, where cane sugar was not yet common, and honey was king of sweetness. Want to try cake? How about it? The owner asks, handing you a small, round, still warm pie. You take it, feeling the softness of the crust, the smell of fresh cheese and bay leaves. Take a bite, and you seem to be pulled back to a time without phones, without ice cream, but with the pure happiness of flour, cheese, and honey. Official historical event. Keiki is a popular offering cake in Roman religious ceremonies, made from fresh cheese, wheat flour, and sometimes eggs. Cake offered to Jupiter, Vesta, or ancestors during sacrificial ceremonies. But outside of the ritual, the Romans also ate it, because who would want to try the food of the gods? A curious fact, some ancient Roman cake recipes, including cake, content in globules, requires frying the donuts in olive oil and drizzling them with honey. Are you imagining donuts soaked in olive oil? Good luck. But the weird thing is, they're delicious. You try the one globules, which look like a dumpling. Cheese balls stuffed with fennel seeds, deep fried, and then dropped into a bowl of warm honey. It was creamy, sweet, and slightly spicy, as if the dessert had borrowed a scene from an action movie. The vendor chuckled. This is for the holidays, and for the heart that needs love. You chew slowly, eyes closed. Across the street, a child sits eating da placenta. You heard right. That's the name of a layered cake, made of flour, fresh cheese, walnuts, and honey. It sounds like a farmhouse version of tiramisu. A chef next to him whispered, "This is the ancestor of millefeuille, who said the French invented everything." Historians still debate whether the Romans invented pastry or simply learned it from the Greeks. Several identical recipes are found in both cultures, with nearly identical ingredients. But the Romans had one distinguishing feature. They sweetened everything with honey, and added herbs, pepper, and even salt. Pastry was part dessert, part medicine, and part display of power. You see a young nobleman coming to buy some cake. A servant follows behind carrying a silver plate containing some cake, domestic sweets, dates stuffed with pine nuts and pepper, then soaked in honey. A classic dish, but also dangerous for diabetics. You wonder, how did the Romans survive without ice cream or chocolate? And then you see a little bottle, something that looks like perfume, but is actually taken down. Concentrated grape syrup, boiled until thick. People pour it on cakes instead of chocolate sauce, even on roast meat. It tastes sweet, spicy, like an opera singer trying to rap. You are invited to try a batch cake. Mix cottage cheese with flour, shape into balls, bake and drizzle with honey. In the warm heat of the clay oven, smell of the cake spreads like a gentle hug. You feel your chest soften, as if all the worries of modern times are melted away with the sweetness. A child presents you with a bay leaf. For the winning chef, he smiles. You pin it to your hair, feeling like you're in some sort of magical baking contest. As you leave the market, bag of pastries in hand, honey still on your lips, you realize that, amidst the heat, the dust, and the squabbling donkeys, Rome has a gentle side, a world of pastries, soft cheeses, and golden honey. And you, a traveler, a greedy but appreciative eater, are part of it. You wake up to the sound of a rooster crowing, not from your alarm clock, but from a real rooster, perched on an ancient brick wall. This morning, you've been invited to a farm outside Rome to help prepare breakfast. But don't expect fried eggs, toast, and coffee. Here, you start your day with what the ancient Romans called pulse, the mysterious porridge that feeds the empire. You trudge down a dusty red cobblestone path to a peasant kitchen where a tanned old woman is boiling a large copper pot. Inside is a mixture of barley, water, and a pinch of sea salt. It's not fragrant, it's not appealing, but there's something about it that makes you curious, because this isn't just food. It's the foundation of Roman civilization. An official historical event, pulse, barley porridge, was a staple of Roman diet for centuries, especially among the common people and the military. Roman soldiers marched with leather sacks of dry grain and could add water to make porridge on the spot. Cheap, easy to store, and rich in energy, Pulsius the ancient MR. You scoop up a ladleful of thick porridge, add some fresh coriander, olive oil, and a piece of salty cheese. Your breakfast is ready. How does it taste? A little bland, a little sour, a little fatty, and strangely enough, not bad at all. Like army-trained white porridge. A strange fact, the Romans sometimes cooked pulse with animal blood to increase nutrition. In sacrificial rituals, the excess blood is boiled with porridge to not waste the gift of heaven. No worries. Today you eat vegetarian. A goatherd boy approaches, holding a boiled egg, dipping it in garum. For extra flavor, he winks. You try to imitate him. By Jupiter, you've just invented the classic version of eggs dipped in fish sauce. While you are chewing, an old man begins to tell a story. In ancient times, the Romans believed that pulse is a gift from Ceres, the goddess of agriculture. No one should despise it. He tapped a bowl of porridge you were eating. This porridge accompanied the Romans when they conquered Europe. Historians still debate whether pulse was a symbol of poverty or a Roman superfood. Some say it represented frugality and asceticism. while others argue that it was the reason Roman soldiers had such extraordinary stamina. You recall the words of a philosophy teacher. The Romans fought not with weapons, but with porridge. It sounds like a joke, but when you see an 80-year-old man still carrying a load of firewood, it begins to make sense. A young woman brings the dish to mortuary, a sauce made from cheese, garlic, coriander, olive oil, and vinegar, ground in a stone mortar. She gives you a piece of hard bread, telling you to dip it in and eat it with pulse. You do, and the flavors instantly explode, like a light show inside your mouth. Fatty, spicy, salty, sour, as if someone had sneaked a Mediterranean restaurant into a spoonful of porridge. You stand up, holding your stomach, looking at the pot of porridge still boiling. An old lady smiles. "Hey kid, pulse feed an empire. Not as good as a royal feast, but enough to conquer the world." You nod. This breakfast is not about showing off. It's about survival. It's a simple yet profound lesson. Sometimes, what keeps you going isn't the most delicious food, but the simplest, everyday food that never makes it into history books. Before you leave, you are given a small bag of dried barley. When you are hungry, boil it with water, the woman says. And remember, this is warrior food. You pocket that seed as a reminder. Sometimes, the greatest things are made from the simplest things. You wander into the luxurious kitchen of a Roman nobleman, where not only flour and honey are served, but also the sumptuousness of seafood dishes. You can't help but notice the plates of fish, shrimp, and clams decorated like miniature works of art. And among them all, the most striking is something with a very Roman name, long. Have you heard about long or fermented fish sauce? Has been called the Roman condiment. But today, you'll see for yourself how people make fish sauce that is unlike any fish sauce you've ever known. An official historical event, long was one of the most valuable commercial products of ancient Rome. It was made from small fish, such as herring or sardines, which were salted and then fermented in the sun for several months. Mediterranean trading ports were busy with barrels off along the Giant was sealed, ready for export throughout the empire. You watch the worker work along scooping buckets of marinated fish out of wooden barrels, muttering ancient incantations, like a modern chef mixing cocktails in a bar. The smell was certainly not for the faint of heart, pungent, fishy, and very strong, like a fuzzy winter coat. A strange fact. It was discovered long it is also used as a topical medicine to treat burns and inflammation. Who would have thought that fish sauce could be both delicious and medicinal? Do you remember a funny story? Why didn't the Romans need perfume? Because along helped them get rid of all the bad smells. Although it may seem like a joke, long it is indeed an indispensable part of every meal, from a simple meal to a lavish banquet. An academic debate remains heated. Whether long is it the ancestor of modern fish sauces, or is it simply a distinct Roman cultural product? Some researchers believe that longus, culinary contract with other Mediterranean peoples, while others believe it to be an independent creation of the Romans. You are invited to try a small spoonful sauce, type long lighter, for beginners. Salty, slightly sweet, with a hint of salty sea flavor, but not hard to swallow. You wonder, if it were possible to bottle it to Delingand used as a seasoning for sushi, how popular will this dish be? You see a servant preparing food at mortuary. The garlic cheese sauce you used to eat with pulse this time, mortuary elevated with a little extra long, creating a special flavor that is both salty and aromatic. You are curious to ask about other seafood dishes. Chef tells about the dish da patina, a type of cake made from fish, eggs, and spices, meticulously prepared in a charcoal oven. The taste of the sea, the earth, and the fire blend together in one small cake, like a multicolored symphony. You think about the magic off long, something seemingly simple, but that elevates any dish, like vanilla ice cream brightening up a chocolate cake. Remember how sunscreen smelled like crocodile poop? Long similar, a distinctive smell that is hard to bear if you are not used to it. Before leaving, you are given a small bottle long pure, The craftsman smiled. Use it to work magic in your kitchen. You step out of the kitchen. The smelling still lingers in the nose, as a reminder that sometimes the secret of sophistication starts from something you think is just fishy. You enter a lavishly decorated room where banquet tables are lavishly set with exotic dishes for the Roman aristocracy. Here, there's more than just bread, fish, and porridge, but a fusion of ingredients from all over the ancient world. And today, you will learn about mortuary, the garlic cheese sauce the Romans loved, but with a more lavish twist. You see the chef holding a stone mortar, crushing fresh garlic cloves, mixing them with cheese, pepper, olive oil, and an herb called soulful. Sounds like a secret medicine name in a fairy tale. Soulful was once a highly sought-after plant in Roman times, both as a spice and for its supposed medicinal properties. Sadly, it is now extinct, just like that crocodile-scented sunscreen you've heard about. An official historical event, Meritus not only a dipping sauce, but also a staple of Roman breakfasts or snacks, demonstrating the creativity in transforming cheese and garlic into a rich, unforgettable flavor. Roman poets also praised it mortuary as a peasant dish, but honored as culinary art. A strange fact, the Romans used the use of mortuary as a tonic. Garlic combined with cheese is said to enhance health and cure respiratory diseases. Can you imagine? Eating this sauce can turn you into an ancient superhero. You certainly wouldn't want to be coughing in the middle of a conquest. The academic debate continues, whether soulful is the greatest medicinal or spice ever lost to history. Some researchers believe it is the ancestor of the modern fennel plant, while others believe it is a completely separate and unique plant. You see little breads wrapped around the mixture mortuary, grilled until golden brown and fragrant. The chef invites you to try it. The strong garlic flavor, mixed with the richness of cheese and the light aroma of rosemary, make you feel like you have just tasted a dish fit for royalty. A naughty child in the corner of the room exclaimed, "Eat. Mortuary okay. No need for toothpaste." You laugh, because the smell of garlic is not easy to hide. Do you remember once seeing the Romans use a mortuarigiven as gifts during the holidays, as a way to show friendship and appreciation? Which makes you think, maybe this garlic sauce is more than just food. It's a cultural symbol. As you leave the banquet hall, the chef reminds you, try making mortuary with your own spices. That's how we keep tradition without getting bored. You smile, knowing that you have just experienced an important part of Roman culinary history, where every dish carries its own story, flavor, and unforgettable secrets. You are sitting in a Roman house, candlelight flickering across the wooden room, and in front of you is a strange-looking pastry. Placenta, not pizza, but an ancient Roman pastry. You take a small piece. Feel the crispy crust with the sweet cream cheese and honey inside. This is not only a dessert, but also a symbol of luxury and endless creativity in Roman cuisine. An official historical event, placenta is a cake recorded in many ancient Roman texts, especially in the recipes of Apicius, the most famous cookbook of that time. The Romans often made a placenta during festive occasions. Consider it a precious gift to share and feast on. A strange fact. It was once thought that the name placenta comes from the Greek word for flat bread, but has also caused much confusion in medical history due to the Latin name. Furthermore, the Romans believed that eating placenta it helps boost your health, and is even good for pregnant women. Sounds a bit strange, right? And as always, a heated academic debate, whether placenta was ancient Rome the ancestor of modern tarts and cheesecakes. Some culinary experts believe it was the origin of cheesecake, while others say it was a distinct type of cake that existed only in Roman cuisine. Do you remember the first time you heard someone joke, "Eat placenta, no need to go to the spa," because the sweetness and richness will instantly lift your mood? And it's true. A small piece of cake is enough to make you forget all the fatigue of the day. You continue to discover how the Romans prepared placenta, from rolling out the dough thinly, brushing it with honey, topping it with cheese, and then sprinkling pine nuts and herbs, before baking it until golden brown. The aroma wafts through the air, making you want to go back to that era just to enjoy a few more bites. Remember the smell of crocodile sunscreen? This fragrant honey scent is like a spiritual tonic just for you. Finally, as you stand up to leave the kitchen, the host smiles. Roman cuisine is not just food, but also joy and love passed down from generation to generation. You nod, carrying the taste placenta sweet in the heart, ready to embark on a culinary journey full of surprises. You find yourself standing in the middle of a bustling Roman square, where stalls sell everything from fish and meat to exotic spices. The aroma of herbs, dried fruits, and a special amastatium, a sweet cake made from bread, honey, and raisins, wafts into your nose like an enticing invitation. An official historical event, mastatium known as one of the oldest Roman pastries. It is often served during festivals, especially wedding ceremonies. Not only is this cake delicious, it also has a deep cultural significance, symbolizing the sweetness and longevity of marriage. You'll notice that ingredients like honey and raisins not only enhance the flavor, but also help preserve the cake for a longer period of time, which was perfect for a large empire like Rome, where food needed to be stored and transported long distances. A strange fact. It was once believed that eating mastatium is believed to increase fertility, and is also placed under the bride's pillow for good luck. You can imagine your wedding night with this little cake lying next to you. No sunscreen needed, and still as sweet as honey. The academic debate remains whether mastatium is at the origin of modern pastries, like Italian sweetbreads. Some archaeologists and foodies believe that this recipe inspired many traditional pastries across Europe, while others argue that it was simply a cultural coincidence. You also hear that in Roman weddings, sharing bread mastatium not only a ritual, but also an act of solidarity and affection between two families. You imagine the laughter and lively stories echoing between the banquet rooms. Do you remember the funny story about a wedding guest who ate too much, must assume to the point of almost getting stuck? And of course, no amount of toothpaste or medicine could help him get rid of that distinctive sweet smell. You feel that each piece of bread is not just food, but also an important piece in the vast culinary and cultural puzzle of Rome, connecting people through lasting values. As you leave the square, you wonder if today, every modern wedding cake carries with it a little bit of the flavor and tradition of those cakes that must have mansion. You step into a small kitchen where a Roman chef is preparing a soup you've never heard of. Pulse. This is not an ordinary soup, but a typical porridge associated with the lives of the common people of ancient Rome. An official historical event. Pulse was a staple food of Roman soldiers and poor people, made from ground grain, usually barley or wheat, cooked with water until it became a thick porridge. It not only provided energy, but was also the basis for many other Roman dishes. Archaeological records show that pulsas existed since the time of the Roman Republic, forming a large part of the diet of soldiers during long military campaigns. A strange fact. It is said that pulse is sometimes used as healing food for people recovering from illness, because it is easy to digest and rich in nutrients. You can imagine yourself eating this porridge on a cold, rainy day, and feeling like a Roman warrior preparing for the next battle. The academic debate remains heated. Whether pulse was really the staple food of the common people. Some researchers believe that the Roman people ate a much more varied diet, while others claim that pulse is the most popular dish, like white rice for Asians today. You recall a humorous story in ancient documents. A Roman soldier complained that pulse was bland and fit for ducks. You can't help but laugh, but in reality, they often add herbs, spices, or even long to enhance the flavor of this dish. You also hear about variations of pulse, such as adding cheese, minced meat or eggs, creating more complex dishes, marking the development of Roman cuisine over time. You imagine yourself sitting by the fire, next to other soldiers, sharing a bowl of pulse hot, listening to stories of war and life. The smell of smoke, damp earth, and grain creates a vivid picture of daily life. Remember the smell of crocodile sunscreen? Then this dish pulse. This has a comforting, simple and rustic taste, like a warm hug in the cold days of history. You leave the kitchen feeling both full and filled with appreciation for the simple yet precious dishes of the past. You are walking around a bustling market where the cries of vendors echo everywhere and stalls display all kinds of fresh fish, meat, fruit, and especially along a very popular fermented fish sauce of the Romans. An official historical event, long considered one of the most important condiments in Roman cuisine. It was made from small fish and fish offal fermented in large vats under the sun until it produced a dark brown liquid with a very distinctive smell. It was used like soy sauce today to flavor everything from soups to grilled meats. A strange fact, smelling extremely strong and can make the uninitiated hold their noses. But the Romans not only loved it, they also produced it at long in an industrial scale and exported throughout the Mediterranean. Many people even say that its smell is even more famous than the crocodile-scented sunscreen you've heard about. The academic debate continues. Whether long is it really a fish sauce or just a form of fish sauce? Some experts say longi is the inspiration for modern Asian sauces, while others believe it is a completely unique product of Roman culture, without rival. You see a chef carefully pouring longi in the grilled fish, making the aroma spread throughout the kitchen. It is said that adding it to a dish is like adding a divine spice, making the dish more vibrant and attractive than ever. Do you remember the story of a merchant who once brought long? Have you ever gone to a remote area and been turned away by the locals because of their strong smell? That story makes you laugh because you can imagine their reaction. You also think about the role of long in ancient medicine. Some believed it aided digestion and cured certain intestinal ailments. It may sound odd, but you can't deny that the Romans were very creative in using the ingredients they had at hand. As you leave the market, the smelling still lingers, like an indelible mark of ancient Roman cuisine, a scent that is both unpleasant and unforgettable. You are entering a luxurious Roman banquet hall where nobles are enjoying a meal da mortuary, a type of crushed bread mixed with fresh cheese, garlic, and delicious herbs. An official historical event, mortis described in ancient Roman texts as a popular dish among common people, especially farmers and soldiers. It was a simple, nutritious dish that gave them energy to work all day. The recipe is recorded in an ancient Roman poem called Maritum, in which the author describes the painstaking preparation of this pounded bread. A strange fact, dish mortuary can be considered the ancestor of today's pesto sauces, but instead of pine nuts and basil, the Romans used garlic and herbs like coriander and thyme. You can imagine the strong garlic aroma, warming the room and stimulating the taste buds. The academic debate is still ongoing. Whether mortuary was it a staple food of the poor, or was it also sometimes served at aristocratic banquets as an appetizer? Some scholars believe that it was a popular but simple dish, while others believe that it was also enjoyed by the nobility, especially when they wanted to enjoy rustic, traditional flavors. You also heard a funny story about a nobleman. After eating mortuary too, many have had to be rescued with perfume because the smell of garlic is too strong. It seems that cuisine sometimes has consequences, whether ancient or modern. You remember the time you tried to do it mortuary staying at home and having your family complain about the garlic smell, making them unable to talk to you for hours. Yet the Romans saw it as a sign of good food. Proof that they knew how to enjoy life despite being a little smelly. As you leave the banquet hall, you carry with you the fresh, slightly spicy taste of mortuary. Feel once again the simplicity but sophistication of Roman cuisine, which is not only food but also the story of people and times. You find yourself in a Roman garden shaded by olive trees, where an oil worker is preparing to harvest green olives to make the famous aromatic oil olem. An official historical event, olive oil olem was an essential ingredient in Roman cuisine, not only for cooking but also for medicine, beauty, and even lighting. Historical records show that Rome was one of the first civilizations to develop efficient and large-scale olive oil pressing techniques, allowing mass production to serve the entire vast empire. Curious fact, the Romans believed that olive oil could help heal wounds and soften skin, and they even used it to massage athletes after workouts. Sounds like an ancient lotion. Maybe you'd like to try it too. The scholarly debate continues. Did the Romans invent the olive oil press, or did they simply learn from the Greeks and other peoples of the Mediterranean? Many experts believe that the Roman development of olive oil technology and trade made a huge difference, helping olive oil become a cultural and economic symbol for them. You remember the little joke about a Roman merchant who confused olive oil with fish oil and got scolded by a buyer because the sauce smelled a little different. It makes you think of that famous crocodile sunscreen. But this time it was oil, not cream. You get rich, light aroma with a hint of bitterness from the olive oil. A reminder that in life, not everything sweet is good, and sometimes bitterness makes perfect. You see before your eyes earthenware pots filled with oil being transported over ancient stone roads, ready to serve from the smallest kitchen to the most lavish banquet table. Leaving the garden, you carry with you the image of this divine oil, not just as food, but as a link to ancient Roman culture, medicine, and aesthetics. You are standing before the grand gates of a Roman villa, where the final feast of tonight's culinary journey awaits you. It is Mouse, roasted ground mouse, a luxury dish for the Roman elite. An official historical event, dormice are recorded in ancient Roman texts as a delicacy, raised and prepared with great care. The Romans often stuffed rats with herbs, minced meat and nuts, then roasted them until golden brown, becoming a lavish dessert or appetizer at aristocratic banquets. A strange fact, people keep groundhogs in small cages caligularia, like keeping pets, and this is an expensive hobby. Some people think that eating ground rats is no different from showing off wealth, because only the rich can enjoy this strange dish. The academic debate remains whether the dish dormouse was it really common in Roman society, or was it just a small part of aristocratic culinary culture. Some historians believe it was reserved for special occasions, while others claim that such exotic dishes were a symbol of power and status. Do you remember an old joke when a drunk guest thought the dish was dormouse was a little chicken? And when he discovered the truth, he didn't know whether to praise or criticize. It was a funny and awkward moment. You feel the delicacy in every piece of meat, the blend of spices, and the pinnacle of cooking art, making this dish not only food, but also a cultural symbol of luxury and creativity. As the feast ends, you slowly leave, filled with emotion as you take a journey through Roman culinary history, from rustic dishes to grand dishes, all creating a vivid and colorful picture. Now, you may be wondering, were these dishes responsible for the prosperity and longevity of the Roman Empire? Perhaps the answer lies in the flavors you just experienced. You have just completed a unique journey through ancient Roman cuisine, where each dish is more than just food. It is a story, culture, and living history. From bread mustachium sweet in weddings, porridge apple simplicity of soldiers, spice long from rich and special dishes, to luxurious ground mice for the upper class, all have sketched a diverse picture of Roman life and people. You see, Roman cuisine was not just about combining ingredients, but also about constant innovation, creating dishes that were both suitable for everyday life and enriched rituals and festivals. Historians still debate many aspects, such as the origin of dishes or their social importance, but it is clear that food helped to unite the community and demonstrate power and status in society. You end the journey with a deep appreciation for this ancient culinary culture, and the knowledge that each ancient dish still echoes in modern dishes today, over the millennia. Now turn off the lights and let's drift off to a sweet dream goodnight.